Great. So lovely to just be together like this, actually, the Mitra and Order Sangha, or many of us here in Cambridge. It's just so lovely, isn't it, to get together like this, irrespective of what we do. However, there is another reason why we've got together, other than just getting together, and that's to hear from Arthapriya, who's sort of offered this particular sort of area that he's been thinking about in this very particular time of his life that we're going to explore. So, as you probably guessed, I'm going to interview Arthapriya about that, and then there'll be a bit of space for question and answers, and then we'll have a tea break, bit of a chance to get together and talk in groups about the area, and then finish with a substantial puja from Amrachandra. Amrachandra is going to lead us in that. So substantial. Oh, very good. And we're going to be recording as well. So I just want to check Shubhadasa. Oh, we've got the thumbs up. That's brilliant. And this time we've set the microphone so it picks up both ways, because last time some people asked Arthapriya if there was anyone else in the room. There were actually about 60 people in the room, but the way the microphone works is it just cuts out all of the
just cut back you and me.
Yeah, it's yeah. So yeah, you will be heard if you cough. That's the other side of this. Anyway, yeah, so we're going to be recording. So without further ado, we'll dive in. It's perhaps worth adding that this time of day is not the best time of day for Arthapriya. We would normally start an event at 10 o'clock, but that is not possible for Arthapriya because his energies take a bit of time to start up, really, and they sort of tail off at the end of the day, don't they? So yeah, we've moved it slightly further to the middle of the day. Yeah.
So about 11, I should be really going.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a long question, the first one.
Yeah. Great. Well, yeah, you've given us this sort of title, this topic, giving away, and I just wanted to start by asking about the sort of inspiration behind it, which you mentioned a bit in your short video, inviting people to this event. You mentioned that you have always been very struck by Dado Rinpoche's and Bante's example with the coming of death, just to give everything away. So I wondered if you'd just say a bit more about that. Why do you feel that's important? Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? I saw the title. In fact, you've had to remind me of the title a few times because I've got this kind of brain fog thing with the drugs, and I thought, why on earth did I choose that? And it's to do with a strong theme that I mentioned in the first interview, which was about traveling lightly. We're kind of born, aren't we, without anything. We come into this world without anything, and we leave the world without anything. And it seems really important to me that I leave it lightly. And there's two parts, as I see it, with that. One is that I leave it in harmony. So there isn't unfinished business. There isn't kind of unresolved difficulties that I have with people. And you never know when death is going to come. And I know that more clearly now. And it's been interesting. I've been really enjoying watching Vardika's talks on how we die. Is that
what happens when we
die? Because you can have an idea about what happens. But I don't think it's like that, is it? Up close, it's not like that. So yeah, the first thing is to travel lightly by resolving difficulties, and the second is where possessions are concerned. There's a practice that we do in the order, particularly around ordination, but we do it throughout our order lives, though perhaps not as much as we should. The 6-element practice, and there's a refrain that you say through the practice, which is, "This is not me, this is not mine," and you look at the various elements of your experience in your body, and you say that to yourself, and there am I very often sitting, starting to have a hot flush, sitting in my my bedroom, surrounded by my things, but they're not me and they're not mine. But our possessions seem to give us identity, don't they? And I'd like to loosen that up a little bit. We stick to things and things stick to us, and that's who we are. But we're not. We're something much, much more than that, much more wonderful, indefinable than any amount of possessions we might have. But it's fair enough to say that while still holding on to them. So so that's one of the things I want to explore. That's one of the things I am exploring, trying to give away things so that, I don't know, at the end of my days, whether I'll be sitting, well, maybe I won't be sitting on anything. Maybe I would have given the chair away. Standing in this kind of empty room. But yeah, going lightly, traveling lightly. We're pilgrims, aren't we? We're on a journey. When people say we're on a journey, my toes curl a bit, because it's become a bit of a cliche, isn't it? And I mentioned this, I think last time, the doctor, my doctor is a wonderful man. And, when he told me my diagnosis, this is my GP, not the consultant, he said, "We're on a journey together." And I thought, we're not really, not really together. We are on a journey, but you're a bit further back. And, I'm a little bit, I've been given the final notice, I think. And, but the thing about cliches is there is truth in them, isn't there? And we are pilgrims. And if you're a pilgrim, you don't take everything with you. You don't take all your belongings with you, do you? Not unless you're fabulously rich. And then perhaps you do. You travel very, very lightly. And that's what I want to do. And I was struck, as you mentioned, Dada Rinpoche, shortly before he died, he went on pilgrimage to the holy places in Nepal. And he gave monks and beggars, anybody who asked, he gave them a little bit of money. And his housekeeper was, well, we're very worried about this. He was bankrupting his household. But he said, "This is really important." The housekeeper couldn't see that, but this is really important. And I couldn't see it so much before, but I see it now. I see it more clearly now. To resolve difficulties, to go in peace, and to go lightly.
I'd like to ask you a bit more about what you see now, but just before that, in a certain way, it's totally, it's sort of unarguably what we need to do, isn't it, at this time. However, so many people don't do this, do they? They don't actually put their affairs in order, either their relations, but also their possessions. Often people are sort of left with a whole mess. So I just wondered if you'd say a bit more, why is that, and how is it that you're giving this attention in advance of your death?
Well, there's something that happened fairly recently. There was an order member in another country who died, and he didn't leave a will. He left no instructions, so his family, who were Catholic, just took over, and so he had a Catholic requiem mass. He had some property that could have gone to the centre. The centre really needs financial help. That's all gone to his family, and his family are really well off, so they don't need the money. Maybe it's fair enough for me to say that. Maybe they think they do, but they probably don't need the money. But did he really want that? I've left a will. I've left instructions with my sisters, you know, what kind of funeral I have, what I want to happen, because I think it's really, really important, and leaving what little money I've got to charities within Triratna. So I found that really upsetting that an order member hadn't thought about that. So order members here and order members listening to this recording, please do think about that. It will happen. Now, I don't kind of blame people. I had this image, I think it was yesterday, that sometimes I feel like I'm in the waiting room. You know, when you're in the waiting room at the dentist, and they've got all these kind of magazines, haven't they? And you know, you end up picking up a magazine, reading about liposuction or something, and you know, something you wouldn't ever be interested in, perhaps, before, but you get really absorbed in it. And I feel sometimes like I'm in the waiting room, you know, for death, and I'm still picking up magazines, still kind of, although there it is, I've got my appointment kind of sorted out. And it's hard. I think it's hard to really take that truth in, and yet it's the only thing that we can be absolutely sure of, that we and everybody else is going to die. So make some preparations, you know, for it.
Great. And maybe it's a good time for you to say what your plan is actually in relation, because you've got a particular sort of approach, haven't you? Plan, idea.
Yeah. You're asking me some very clear questions, and I'm not quite. You mean with my possessions?
Yeah.
It came in a meditation. I'll just turn this off. I used to be a member of the trustees here. One of the things that you often look at if you're a trustee of a council of a Buddhist center is money. You always need money. Things are always going up, you know. Things are always kind of falling apart. We need money. Reminds me, there's a song, I can't remember who the singers is, and the lines go, some people say the good things in life are free, but you can keep them. How does it go? The birds and bees. I want your money. That's what I want. I want your money. But we need money, and it seems a shame to me that the trustees, this fine kind of body of men and women dedicated, you know, to looking after the centre, to sharing the Dharma, to facilitating the spreading of the Dharma, involving other order members in that process, and mitras too, should have to spend so much time concerned about kind of money. So I thought, well, why don't I get rid of all my kind of belongings and give it to the centre? And I got quite excited about this. And then a friend of mine said, not the clothes, Arthapriya, not the clothes. Because I was thinking of the clothes too. but some people might want them. Whether Padmajata would do an auction of my belongings here, I don't know. Put pressure on people to give as much as possible. But that got me thinking too that, well, other people could do that. We could be more imaginative about raising money for the centre. If you ask yourself, and I've been asking myself quite a lot in recent times, what is the most precious gift that I've been given? And it's the Dharma. There's no competition. There's nothing near it. The Dharma is the greatest gift that I've been given. It's my life. It's given me a life. And I want to give back. I can't ever give back. I can't ever pay that back. It's too big a gift. And the longer I live, the more precious it seems. But I can do something. And it's something practical, because we're sometimes very good at talking, aren't we? But something kind of, practical. I've got lots of books and images and, things like that. And Arthasiddhi's just been on an order weekend, and he came back with a book for me. A part of me kind of groaned, another book. It's Suvantra's book, latest kind of book, which is wonderful. But yes, something like that, where we would, it would be fun, and we could raise money for the centre. In a way, what I would love to happen here in Cambridge, and not just Cambridge, other centres too, is that the trustees don't need to concern themselves about raising money for the centre. That the Sangha itself takes the initiative, takes that on, says to Keta Raja, who's our chair, do we need more money? Leave it to us. We'll take that on. Wouldn't that be wonderful if that kind of happened more? But certainly leaving something to the centre, in your will. It's kind of painless in a way, isn't it? Because you don't need to part with it now. But you could make a real difference to the centre. The Abhayaratna Trust, which is a charity that helps order members in need, that was started by Abhayaratna, who I knew, leaving his house to the movement, and this charity was set up, and it's done so much good, helping order members out, order members who can't afford to go on retreat, can't afford to pay their electricity bills, and so on and so forth. And they also help the person's friends organize kind of fundraising. So it doesn't just come from the Abhayaratna Trust funds. It comes from the Sangha of the person concerned. So yes, something like that. And that would make me feel much happier about my belongings. It would make me feel I wasn't appropriating more and more, but I was, what I am doing, I'm a steward. We're all stewards of our things, but we cannot take them with us. No matter how kind of precious they are to us, we cannot take them with us. They will be left behind. And sometimes they'll end up in a bin bag, whereas they might do some good, while you're alive. They might do some good. You could share them. You could maybe raise money from them. Yeah. But to go on sharing the Dharma, to go on doing what we do here in Cambridge, we do need money. And we just, not just money, we need that spirit of generosity, that wanting to share, wanting to give, less and less seeing it as me and mine and ours. Not me, but we,
So I wonder, you said that you're sort of seeing the importance of this more and more now, and I wanted it. Yeah, I just wanted to sort of draw you out. You're already really communicating that, but I wanted to just sort of draw you out on these two aspects. One being the giving up, and then the giving away. Giving up or letting go. It's one of those phrases, isn't it? Letting go, that we use quite easily. But you say you've sort of seen the importance of this more in the light of your diagnosis. But why let go? Would you sort of unfold that for us?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm getting cold now. I get hot, then I get cold. Well, if you're not letting go, you're hanging on, aren't you? And I don't want to not just die hanging on. I don't want to live, hanging on. I want to kind of hold life lightly, and I think when I have done that, because it's a practice for me, although I'm talking about it, I'm not this expert that's been brought in, not by way. It's a diagnosis of terminal cancer that has got me here, really, that has kind of woken me up. And as I said a moment ago, sometimes I'm still taking up the magazines in the waiting room, and but that seems to be, as far as I can see, the spirit of the Dharma, where you sit light to life. You don't hang on. You more and more let go. And that's easy to say, isn't it? And I often wondered, I've been doing this in my meditation practices, trying more and more to let go. And sometimes I'm kind of puzzled at what it is I'm trying to do. And often it's my body that gives me the clue, my body that shows me that I'm kind of bracing or hanging on or becoming kind of tight. Do you know what I mean? And working on that in my body, letting go in my body, helps me let go of that, in my mind. Life is just, well, in Mantis' poem, Life is King. Life is just too big, too kind of wonderful and indefinable to be got hold of. All we can do is kind of, I don't know, sit in awe of it, and that mystery that is shunyata, that emptiness that is full. I don't know whether I've
Answer the question.
Yeah, but I'm still in the question. But I'm just
Yeah, well, I mean, I will tell you, it's lovely just to be back in conversation, sort of here, sharing some of, because we go for coffee, don't we? And it feels like a great privilege, really, to be in dialogue with you at this time, because you're in touch with something just more keenly, something we sort of know but forget, as you say, the magazines. But you're in touch with something more keenly, which is just so important to be in touch with, to hear. So I'm just really delighted, actually, that we're able to do this. I think, yeah, in this area of letting go, I think you have talked about that. I guess it's just a question of like how, because it sounds so easy, doesn't it? It rolls off the tongue. But how do we let go? I wondered if you'd say something about that?
Well, going back to, my themes, my
Yeah.
two themes.
Yeah.
The first theme is getting back into harmony, resolving difficulties, letting go of pride, letting go of the story that we tell ourselves. And so, because I've talked to you about this, it's been a practice of mine to try and resolve things with people. So when people come and visit me, and people have come to see me from all over, and I had an old friend, Kalina Prabha, some of you might know her, come to visit me last week. Old friend, and for years and years we met every week together. And I was the women's Mitra convener before she was, which was a bit unusual. And so anybody who comes to see me these days, I ask them whether is there anything that I've done, anything I've said, that has hurt you or gotten in the way of our connection and our friendship, and it's putting them on the spot a bit. But if they read my Shabda report, this is what I said that I was going to do, and then there's normally, some time of silence while they think about it. And I and I sit there wondering what I'm going to hear. And you might think, oh, Arthapriya, there'll be nothing. There'll be nothing, Sometimes there is something, and something I've forgotten about.
Mm.
And this happened to me about 3 weeks ago. And it's a wonderful opportunity to apologize.
Mm.
To let go of needing to be right, needing to be justified, needing to maintain the story. And that's what I was interested in, maybe doing something of that this morning. I don't know whether there will be time, but is there anything like that in your lives, with your family, with your Sangha friends, with anybody, that you are somebody you're out of harmony with? Somebody that there is a story in your mind about? Because it's so easy to justify why you are maintaining that. And sometimes actually there is justification. Sometimes somebody has treated us horribly, and but we're not justified, the Buddha said, in maintaining ill will towards them, because he says it's like picking up a burning coal and running after somebody in order to throw it at them. And you might miss, but you're burning yourself. And there's that. But actually, there's the wonderful feeling of being back in full harmony and communication with the person.
Mm.
And it's a wonderful thing because it's happened the other way around for me, where somebody has apologized to me about something, and there's no but, but you did do this, or but, it's just completely clean. They say, I did this and I'm really sorry about it. And I'm sorry it's taken so long to say, please forgive me. How can you not forgive someone really who says, please forgive me, and means it? So that is one way, Arthasiddhi, of letting go. And you let go of pride, and you receive something much more wonderful. You receive you receive love. You're back in the sort of spirit of metta again. Yeah. But why do we do it? I mean, why? It happened in Manchester when I was involved in the big building project in Manchester. And sometimes when you're under what called the oppressions, when you're under a lot of tension and things get really tight and we take things to heart. We haven't got the same resources. And it happened. We fell out. I fell out with someone and I was just not willing to forgive them. And it was horrible for our mutual friends. And it was horrible for him, horrible for me. And then when I did have the sense, and it took, I'm ashamed to say, it took some years, to see this. When I did apologize and ask for forgiveness and could see my foolishness, well, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. I felt like part of me that had been shut off, closed down, was alive again. Yeah. Don't leave it too long, we're told, aren't we? We're advised, don't leave it too long. The longer you leave it, the harder it is.
Lovely. And then there's this aspect of the other words in your chosen theme, giving away, and the putting the two together as you have, it sort of brought to mind, I think, for both of us when we're talking about this, that thing from the Bodhicharyavatara, enlightenment is the giving up of all, and it is enlightenment my heart yearns for. If I am to give up everything, then let me give it to beings. So that if I am to give up everything, let me give it to beings. Some sort of suggestion of a connection between letting go and giving up. I mean, I like, incidentally, enlightenment is the giving up of all can sound a bit sort of far off abstract, but you said it is the spirit of life. Letting go somehow is the spirit of life. So what about this connection between that and giving?
Well, just on that,
yeah.
Do you think I could have a blanket? I'm getting cold. Oh, thank you. Not thank you very much.
Giving up heat.
Well, if you look at your life,
Yeah.
I've been doing this quite naturally. If I look at my life, so much, in fact, everything I've got has been given to me by other people. All the things I know, I haven't come up with. All the Dharma I know comes to me from other order members. It comes from Bhante. It comes from the teachers, and even my clothes and the food that I eat and everything is given to me by other living beings. We're a kind of a network, aren't we? And I mean, I think we could see this. I saw this quite clearly during the lockdown, kind of particularly. So you're just doing what is natural in a way. You are sharing your resources as others have shared with you. Sometimes when you're lucky enough to teach the Dharma, to communicate the Dharma, people say, "Oh, yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for leading the retreat or leading the course or spending some time with me." And don't you, that you receive as much from them, if not more, actually, than they've received from you. And you say that maybe, and they think you're just saying that, but it's true.
Yeah.
You're privileged enough to lead that retreat or be part of that study group or whatever it is. Yeah, I felt so much kind of gratitude for the little things in my life and the big things in my life, and to my family, to my spiritual friends. I just have to look around. I just have to look around my room. I just, it all comes from other people. and it's only right that it should go back. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. I was really moved actually by your whatever it is idea. You haven't done it as yet, but I trust you will. Of just auctioning everything and giving them the money to the Cambridge Buddhist Centre. Partly I was moved by you choosing the Cambridge Buddhist Centre. You've got very, very strong connections with Manchester Buddhist Centre. Your blood and sweat is in those bricks, in those walls. You've got a very, very strong connection with Pamaloka, but you chose Cambridge, and that moved me actually. Yeah, so I just wanted to ask you about that, a few questions, but yeah, what sort of, perhaps you feel you've already answered that, but I just wondered what, how come Cambridge?
Yeah, you're right. Why Cambridge?
Says the treasurer.
Well, I suppose, I was talking about the trustees, a few moments ago, and the trustees, it sounds really, really official, doesn't it? Like the offices of the charity. We're friends. I was in this group of friends with a particular responsibility towards the centre. And again, this came out so strongly during the lockdown, how quickly people sprung into action to make sure that the Dharma was continued to be shared, with the world, maybe with a small w, but actually we were sharing the Dharma with somebody, I think, in Ann Arbor in America, and somebody from Nice, and people from all over were kind of tuning in. And I know that it's a concern for my friends on the council that so much more could be done if there was a kind of more guaranteed source of income. So if you do and I do a banker's order for the centre, that's really helpful. That's a kind of guaranteed income, isn't it? And it reminds me, I remember doing a Carronot appeal years and years ago. It's the most frightening thing I've ever done. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but it was. Up to that time, it was the most frightening thing I'd ever done. And all you're doing is knocking on the door of a stranger and inviting them to think about giving. You're not, you're not forcing them. You're not trying to persuade them, in the wrong kind of way. You're offering them the opportunity, and why should it be so frightening? And I think it's because you feel so kind of naked on the door. There you are, and you've never met before, and you're trying to not sell something in a contrived way, but be yourself and communicate the importance of why you're there, and see whether this other human being can get it, can relate to it. And so many human beings can, not Buddhists. Maybe they've got no interest in that, never been to India, but they can relate to these human beings that they will never meet, because that's a facility we've got, isn't it? Imagination. We can put ourselves in the shoes of other people. It's wonderful that we can do that. And I've forgotten what I was saying about
the scariest thing.
No, not that. Oh dear. Brain fog.
Yeah, don't worry. Well, maybe to ask you a bit more about the link actually between letting go and giving. Reminded of whoever's dad it was, who was dying, and he was helping his dad, saying, "Just let go, Dad, just let go." And his dad said, I am trying to let go.
Yeah. It was Vardica, actually.
Oh, it was Vardica,
Yeah.
was it? Yeah.
He's not here, is he? Be a bit.
Bit embarrassing. Yeah. Yeah, but I guess it's just that phrase "letting go," when we use it, it can sound like something we can do without a context. We can do in the privacy of our own meditation, and of course we do. That is part of it, isn't it? But giving is always particular, isn't it? It's always you give in relation to somebody, some particular context, and I just sort of wondered, yeah, if actually the two are much more linked than we realize. In the way you've talked about letting go, it is particular, isn't it? It's letting go in relation to other people. But yeah, that phrase can sort of sound like you can do it sort of privately, without, irrespective of context, without a context. Whereas putting these two together, giving up, giving away, draws out this link. Yeah. So that's what struck me with you saying Cambridge. Well, it has to be a particular context that you give to. So yeah, I just wanted to draw you out about that, about actually, can we let go without giving, without others?
Well, that's where the danger is. It's a bit abstract, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Where you see a need, where you see a real need, it's much, it's compelling in a way to respond to that. We found that actually with the Manchester building project, that we were raising money for all sorts of things. We had to raise money for a Rupa. We wanted a big Rupa. We had to raise money for cups and saucers, and we had to raise money for carpets and all sorts of things. And we found it much easier, rather than raising money generally, to say that we need to raise this amount of money for this particular thing, and people could relate to it when it was on a smaller scale, and it was particular. Some items were more easy to relate to, like we fundraised for a big Rupa, and of course people related much more to that than to carpet, for example. Of course, yeah. I think letting go, something. There's some connection with letting go of your limitations too. We think with this kind of person, don't we? And then I don't know whether you've had this experience, but coming to the Buddhist Center, for me, when I first came along back in the 80s, I didn't come along to get ordained or in a way dedicate my life, to the Dharma. I came along because I was really unhappy and I wanted to see whether this might help. And the Dharma unlocked something in me, I think, and the Dharma does that. Also, there's something about the existential. When you are faced with the existential, when there's a threat to you and your life as it is lived right now at the moment, there's also an opportunity to step out of that limitation, to look again at your life and think, is this how I want to live my life? Is this how I want to be? When you resolve a difficulty with someone, you're stepping out of a limitation. the limitation was the kind of person who holds on to things, who is captured by a particular story. And by letting go of that, you are free of that limitation. Somebody left a car. No, happened last time, didn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So letting go, in my mind, has a lot to do with freeing yourself from your limitations. Samsara, another way of seeing samsara, is it is the place of limitation. Enlightenment, you step beyond your limitations. But long before enlightenment, you experience kind of freedom from that.
Sorry to interrupt. This little Dean into the car.
Deanne.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I'm very sorry. Please. Okay.
Don't worry, come back.
I'm just reminded of Bhante in the Bodhisattva ideal, talking about the Bodhisattva in relation to limitation. I will place no limit upon what I'm prepared to do.
When the time is, when the time is ripe, and I am ready for other living beings. Yeah. That sums up, in a way, the Bodhisattva spirit. I will place no limit on what I am prepared to do when the time is ripe and I am ready for other living beings. So you might not be ready, the time might not be ripe. Your spiritual friends can help you with that. But you don't go into it by placing limits. But of course, you do go into it placing limits. Again, to draw on my experience of the Manchester Buddhist Centre, when we had this 6-story warehouse that we wanted to refurbish, and it was in a terrible state. And to begin with, our volunteers said, I am not prepared to work the weekends. I am not prepared to work beyond 5 in the evening, which is fair enough. And then as the project got hold of them, as they identified with the project, they were working until 6. They were working, Saturday morning. And then in the end, as we got closer and closer, which seemed to be getting further and further away from finishing it, people worked the whole weekend. Mitra study became doing building work. Order weekends were building work at the centre. I had to invent this term, karma yoga, make it a bit, tantric, and but that's what it was. It was getting dirty at the centre. Somebody said to me, one of the Mitras said to me, this has changed my whole relationship with the centre. I used to think of it as being the order members' centre, but I did that beam. It's my centre. I feel that more and more. It's my centre. And so they started off it being over there somewhere, and gradually love for the centre, and they loved working with one another too. They let go of those limitations, and in letting go, got closer and closer with the project, identifying with the project, and became more and more ready to do that. Not at the beginning, but as time went on. So we always, don't we approach this in stages. We can't plunge in usually the deep end. Not usually. Sometimes some extraordinary people can do that, but I'm not like that. I've gone in, but you can go deep if you start off going kind of shallowly to begin with.
Okay. And you made a connection between giving and it being my center. It's a bit reminiscent of Marmaki, isn't it? The consort of Ratnasambhava, the Buddha of generosity. Her wisdom is the, or talked about as the mind maker. But somehow if you give, you end up sort of feeling like things are yours in a certain way.
There's no need to grasp hold of things because things are yours. Everything is yours. But everything is yours as well, and everything is yours as well. And it's a lovely way of turning around that poison, that prison, and making it freedom, where everything is precious to you. Everybody is precious to you. Rather than you limit yourself to these people over here and not these people over there. But surely, the limitation of time.
So just to say thank you very, very much for really, really lovely, actually, just hearing you talking about this area. And I wonder if you'd be willing just to stay for a little bit longer to see if there's any questions.
Yes.
Have you got you got capacity? So yeah, let's open the do speak loudly because the microphone goes both ways. Hi, Arthapriya. Deeper, sorry.
Hi, Arthapriya.
Hi.
One of the models of the spiritual life is the model of self-surrender, and it seems to tie in with your themes today of giving up and letting go. This idea of, and you touched on it as well in terms of limitations for yourself. And I just wondered, if you link that, or maybe since your diagnosis, that idea of surrendering yourself, giving up this idea of a fixed ego to something greater than yourself. How does that sort of relate to what you've been saying?
I think that has that's how I'm approaching my practice. In a way, surrendering myself to the love of Tara and Amitabha, and it just seems what I'm called to do at the moment. And I suppose you have different, you go through different approaches, don't you, as you live your spiritual life. And I talked quite a lot about Manchester this morning and the building project in Manchester. And at that time, I was very much into a kind of doing mode, action mode. I wanted things to happen, and I wanted to create with others this beautiful Buddhist center in the center of Manchester. But I'm not in that mode anymore, and I suppose I see. Oh, I don't know how to put it. It's hard to put it into words. But instead of doing, I kind of need to. Again, it seems a bit of a cliche, to be, but it does feel like that. I need to forget about trying to bring things about, letting go of control and my willing things into being, and surrender to something greater than me. And yeah, sorry, I can't say more than that. Yeah.
Thank you, Luke.
So there are a couple of younger people in the group. there's a couple of younger people in the room today, so I was just wondering, we are, a lot of us, I mean, age isn't a problem at this point. There are plenty of older people that are still in doing mode, but there are a lot of, like myself, that are in that doing mode that you were talking about. Obviously, I know I'm going to die, but I'm not emotionally attached. I'm not emotionally involved in that. Intellectually, I know that, but how, as a younger person, can I really work with the doing mode and still stay in contact with this theme that you're talking about? Because I know it's important, but I can just forget it so easily.
Yeah. Oh, that's quite. I suppose there are small deaths, aren't there? You know, I've been talking about kind of letting go of pride. Sometimes when you're in doing mode, you get into you want to be in control of that. You can see this sometimes when you've got a team of people together. Again, we saw this in Manchester where people wanted to outdo one another. People fell out about things. There's a lot of competitiveness, and to turn your competitiveness into cooperativeness, not to have to lead, seeing, because in a way, the ambition you have when you're younger, you don't want to get rid of that, but it needs to serve a higher purpose than you. And if you find something that it can serve, in a way, you leave your ego behind, at least to some extent. It's a sort of small death, and you're stepping into a greater life. Does that help at all? I don't know. But all of us need to be, you know, kind of keep this in mind, because people die when they're young. People die when they're middle-aged. People die when they're old, and you know, and sometimes death comes very, very unexpectedly. And my dad was 94 when he died, and I thought, well, I'm probably going to live as long, if not longer, because I've lived a healthier life. He was a butcher for many years, and my mother was very old too when she died. I didn't think, you know, that I would die so much younger than they. You've got to prepare yourself for the unexpected, haven't you, in the Dharma life? It's not just death too, there's illness. I remember, surprisingly, Bhante said that he had prepared himself for death, but he hadn't prepared himself for old age. And yeah, so you have to prepare yourself for the unexpected and open to that. You had a question, didn't you?
I did. I'm not sure it's how it's going to come out of my mouth. It's connected with letting go, and it's also connected with this particular practice you're doing of inviting people to ask you, tell you of any sort of things that might have happened in the past. And I'm not someone who suffers from a huge amount of guilt and shame, which I don't want to take to my deathbed, but it just bubbles up a lot. And I haven't been the most ethical, especially with my speech. I've been quite mean as well, sort of quite tight as a person. And I met the Dharma. I'm getting better. But there's people, there's situations that I'm never, ever going to be able to rectify, to come to terms with. And, you know, you talked about your limitations. So maybe I don't know, how can I let go of those limitations of my former self, my former behaviour, but still feels like a lot of shame is there.
Mm.
I don't want to keep going.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I can certainly relate to that. And I think there's quite a lot of forgiving one needs to do, forgiving of oneself. And a certain tenderness, with that forgiveness towards oneself. And I suppose one of the things the diagnosis has given me is that I've just done some foolish things, and we all do. I just have regrets. We all do, and I'm sorry about some of the things that I have done, and some of the things I'm not going to be able to resolve with the people concerned. And sometimes you don't have to if that isn't kind of possible. And even if it is possible, sometimes you have to weigh up the effect it might have on them. You suddenly appearing out of nowhere, I think what is important is seeing our faults in the past, and we should always see our faults, I think, with a kind of kindly eye, because the idea isn't to kind of punish ourselves. You don't kind of redeem yourself through punishment. You redeem yourself through maitri, through metta, and one of the things, I mean, I did the Milarepa practice for a long time, and one of the things I like about Milarepa is Milarepa wasn't born walking on lotuses. Like he murdered people, and Angulimala kind of killed people, and the Dharma changed their life, and they were able to leave that behind and be reborn. And I think there's something about that, isn't there, in the Dharma life? Certainly, I feel that with becoming an order member, that I was born again, and born out of this life where I was bitter and cynical, and it was hard not to be, given the context I was in. But when I was in a different context, a more human context, I did respond to that. I did kind of open to that. My spiritual friends were really patient with me. So some of this letting go is you need to leave behind. It's like when you're, when you're packing your rucksack, maybe it should be a knapsack. And yeah, you look at what you've done in the past and you think, yeah. And then you don't take it with you. You learn the lessons, but you leave it behind. Yeah.
Maybe one last.
Just one
Yeah.
more thing. The difficulty I got into was with an order member in Manchester, and I was very ashamed of that because I was an order member, and I justified my ill will towards the other person because I felt I'd been treated badly, and when I realised what I was doing, I just felt so foolish, stupid, and I learned an important lesson through that. I've learned more, I think, through my mistakes than I've ever learned through my successes. It's humiliating. It is.
Mm-hmm.
But humiliation, a certain kind of humiliation with kindness is very transformative. Yeah.
Maybe one last question. I don't know if Shubhadas has got it.
Yes, you've got tissue. Yes, It's fine. Part of it.
Great. Thanks, Luke. So one last question, Amrachandra.
Yeah. Just, it's a beautiful piece. Thank you so much. There's these different levels of letting go. Because
Yeah.
maybe in response to Luke's question, and he's now gone, but anyway. Having built the Manchester Centre, you know, all that energy and how you do that. And now that building is no longer viable and they're going to sell it. And so, but also you're coming to the end of your life. So it's not just the things that you give away. There's also something about, I suppose it strikes me, something about you can't keep any of it, can you? So the things that you build in your life. Actually, this one's going before you die.
Yeah.
But you can't keep it anyhow. I think of all the sort of bits of knowledge that I have that they're not going to come with me, but I've spent a lot of time gathering them up. And there's sort of the lightness somehow of being, moving towards death. I think, I guess I don't know what my question is, but there's something in there that's really communicating from you. And I was thinking about Manchester and that all that act of building, I build my life, my connections, my friendships, my possessions, family. Absolutely none of it can come, but something, what, you know, and what does it mean to go in with the lightness of mind, but also with the fullness of a life well lived or something?
Yeah. I think in a way, in a certain way, you leave a legacy, don't you? You can't take anything with you, but you can leave kind of legacy of kindliness and encouragement. And my first friend in the order, he used to pick me up from my flat and take me to the centre. He was a Danish order member, Gunavadra, and he died a few years ago, and I've never forgotten him. He became a friend to me, and it's so sad in a way because he was like me, he was very left-wing, and he wanted to single-handedly bring down Margaret Thatcher. And so he stopped coming along to the centre and he put more and more energy into that. He was very much a trade unionist. And I was so sad that he did that and stopped putting his time into the Dharma. And I remember only finding out about his death when I was leading a puja on a big convention, and I was handed a list of the order members who died that year. And just a few minutes before I was to lead it, I saw his name. And although he didn't die within the order, his time in the order left a legacy that I will never forget. And I feel deep gratitude. And I imagine we all feel that, don't we? That we've got order members, you know, maybe from our early days that who first taught us meditation or first taught us the Dharma and gave us this wonderful gift. So your legacy, that's what you leave behind, and yet you don't think about leaving a legacy behind, but you do. You know, whether you think about it or not, you leave some kind of, you scatter seeds, don't you? I think as you go through life, and they sprout in other people, in other situations, maybe long after you've gone. Yeah. But even when we were building the Manchester Centre, I was the plasterer. I knew that a day would come when this would go. This that was so important to me. I thought this will go too. And now it's actually happening. Yeah. How could they? How could they? Yeah.
Maybe that's a good place to finish. Thank you very much, Arthapriya. Maybe just a round of applause for us to.